good. GDP-related question back home here. Sam Altman was here. You just joined the board of OpenAI. He made a very interesting comment for those of you who weren't there or got to see it yesterday with Sam, that he believes that GDP could double over the next 10 years as a function of AI. You're on his board. I don't know if you agree with him.
That's probably in the category of comments that I would take very seriously, but not completely literally.
You're an independent board member, okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's step back. Here's a 60-second version of the economic history of mankind. There was no economic growth from the beginning of time till 3000 BC. There was 3 or 4 basis points of economic growth per year, so 3% a century, from 3000 BC to 1500 AD. It was 25 basis points a year of economic growth from 1500 BC till 1800 and something. And since then, there's been 180 or 200 basis points of GDP. So there have been 4 step changes. AI is really special. The wheel was a big deal. But when you had a great wheel, you had a great wheel. It didn't make more great wheels. When you had electricity, it was great. But electricity didn't automatically make more electricity. Whereas artificial intelligence has the capacity to make more better artificial intelligence. So is there the possibility of a step change in the way that the beginning of agriculture, rather than settling, was scavenging, was a step change, in the way that the Renaissance and the scientific method were a step change, in the way that the Industrial Revolution? Is that a very real possibility? And is that a seismic event in economic history that when people write the history of this time will dwarf anything about China and Taiwan or Gaza or Russia and Ukraine? Yeah, I think that's a real and serious possibility. Do I think it's all going to happen so fast and so well measured that in a literal way GDP will double over the next 10 years? I'd bet against that, but I don't think that's the really fundamental issue. Look, what I think we all need to prepare ourselves for, and what I think is the real tragedy, is less the crazy things that are going to get said in the debate tonight, but the things that are hardly at all going to get talked about. I would take this big picture view on it all. My grandmother was born in 1900 and she died in 1974. She saw indoor plumbing, electricity, more or less the end of childhood death, the car rather than horseback, jet planes, telephone, then radio, then television. That's what she saw in a 70-year lifetime. I'm going to turn 70 this year. My life's seen plenty of change, but how's it really different than when I was born? Yeah, we have a cell phone. Yeah, the planes fly a little faster. Yeah, there's the internet. But compared to what my grandmother saw, very small, much less change. And by the way, my grandmother also saw 2 world wars, a Great Depression, and Americans en masse getting bomb shelters to protect against nuclear war. And what set all that off was not unrelated to all that technical change happening.
So what's that?
I had a granddaughter who was born 2 weeks ago. I spent some time talking to the fancy demographers at Harvard. They think she's got a better than even chance of living to 100, given medical progress. I think electricity is going to be at the edge of free 20 years from now. And this artificial intelligence, we already talked about, and then we could talk about human augmentation and a lot of other things. So I think my granddaughter's life span is going to be much more like my grandmother's than like yours or mine. And the question's going to be, how much are we going to be getting the benefits, and how much are we going to be containing and controlling the costs? And, you know, that's going to be judged by history. You look at a lot of what's going on in the political process, and, you know, are we going to think all that through? Well, it's not entirely obvious that we are, but I think we're headed for a period of really profound technological change and progress.
But is the change and progress going to be good or bad? Are we all going to have jobs? And even taking the jobs away, I mean, then there's the question of how the economy is going to work, the dignity of work, the idea of having a mission and a passion and doing something.
Was the change during my grandmother's life positive or negative? It was positive, really was. In the fullness of it all, I don't see how you can escape the conclusion that it was positive. But were World War I and World War II and Stalinism and Maoism kind of epic catastrophes in human history? Yeah, they sure were. So I don't think I can reduce this to, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? I think that this idea that there won't be anything for people to do, I think it was wrong when the New York Times observed the assembly line and wrote about it in 1928. It was wrong when Presidents Kennedy and Johnson set up a commission on cybernetics to deal with automation and the end of jobs. And so I think it's probably going to be wrong. I think that idea is probably going to be
Let me ask it in a different way then.
Wrong now.